I'm Steve Santoff. I got Ben here with me. Ben, we're in southern Louisiana. Is there do you call this place anything?
Sanama.
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 So, I've been watching the, is it on the Discovery Channel? Or is it on, no, it's on
the History Channel.
It's on the History Channel. The Swamp People. And I think my wife and I catch every episode when we're flipping the channels, and it's on there, and we're pretty familiar with all the people on there and their experiences catching alligators. You get tags, don't you?
Yes.
How many tags did you fill last year?
38.
38. How does it work in Louisiana for getting tags?
Well, you have to apply for a piece of property in order to get the tags, and depending on how many acres the property is, the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, they determine how many tags that they would give you. And I think the rule of thumb that they told me, if you have swampland, it's an average of 200 acres for one alligator tag.
Okay.
And if you have marshland, it's about 25 acres per one tag. And for one tag, you can catch one alligator. And the reason they told me the difference is that in the marshland, they have a higher population of alligators because there's a lot more nesting
ability.
Correct. Than there is in the swamp.
Okay.
So the wild hunt is mostly on swamp.
What's the method that you choose for your alligator hunting?
I hang hooks with rotten chicken.
Rotten chicken.
Hooks, yes.
So if I went to the grocery store and bought some drumsticks and went out, not that I'm interested in doing that, but hypothetically, if I did that with some good fresh chicken, how many alligators would I catch?
You could possibly catch one small alligator.
But you won't catch any big.
But your big alligators are generally going to sit underneath that chicken and wait for it to rot.
That's amazing.
And from what I've been told, the alligator's digestive system works on heat and the sun, and it's easier for them to eat rotten flesh, and it could digest easier than the
Interesting. So 38 tags last year. How many years have you been doing it?
I started in 1997 as a helper, helping this other guy in Manchac, and he explained to me how to get tags. So in the very next year, I knew my grandparents. They lived in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and they had a bunch of sugarcane fields. They were all sugarcane farmers on their property, but on the back end of their property was a bunch of swamp. So I got in touch with Louisiana Department of Wildlife Fisheries, and they told me I needed to provide them a map of the property. I needed to tell them how many acres it was, and I needed to get the township, the range, and the section numbers of the property. And I also had to provide them with a current tax receipt showing that they were paying taxes on the property. And then I had an application, and I filled out all that information, and I mailed it to them, and they reviewed it, and they determined that there was enough alligators, there was a big enough population to issue a couple of tags for that property. And I think it was 3 tags.
So none of these people that are hunting alligators are actually hunting on the same water unless they got together and the same landowner gave them permission. So they're really not in competition in the same area. Is that right?
Right, because the way it works, if I apply to hunt alligators on a certain piece of property, I have to hunt my alligators on that property. I can't go to my neighbor's property and hunt alligators on his property. That would be illegal. Now, there are some very large pieces of property that people own that they would get multiple. Yeah, they would divide it up. And also, the state owns property, and they're called wildlife management lands.
You can hunt on wildlife management land?
You have to apply.
Okay.
And for 2 years, I had a contract where I hunted for the Marpaw Swamp Wildlife Management Land.
Okay.
And they selected 8 hunters.
Okay.
And for each hunter, they gave that hunter 44 tags. And that hunter could have 1 helper.
Okay.
And
so how's the, like you go out and you're spending your resources and your gas and your time and your transportation and your bait and whoever's helping you if you're paying somebody to help you. What's the value of an alligator then, now? How's it fluctuated?
In 1997, when I first started, the price was $45 a foot. And after a couple of years, it stayed at $45 a foot, and then the very next year it dropped to $12 a foot. And the reason for that was they grade the alligator hides, number 1 and number 2 and number 3.
Okay.
And the number 1s are the best hides. And
are they the largest? Or they
not necessarily the largest. They have the least amount of scars and damage. They're the prettiest hides.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the market got flooded with a bunch of alligator hides, and they were using a lot of the number 1s to make the boots and the belts and the purses. And then eventually there was just way too many of the number 2s and number 3 hides. So the price drastically dropped in 1 year. It went from $45 a foot to $12 a foot. And then every year it slowly increased. The value slowly increased a couple of dollars every year.
Okay.
And then it worked its way up back to $45 a foot in the mid-2000s. It stayed there for a year or two, and it dropped back down to $12 a foot.
Okay.
And then when it started to increase, now they do it a little different. If you have 4-foot alligators, it might be $4 or $5 a foot.
Okay.
And then if you have 5 and 6-foot alligators, those might be $6, $7, or $8 a foot. And then as you get up to the 7-foot alligators and 8-foot alligators,
price
the price,
larger hide.
yeah, it might be $16 to $20 a foot.
Okay.
And when you get to your 9s and your 10-foot alligators, it might be $27 a foot. And I think that's the current price.
How much meat is harvested from these alligators? All of it, or some of it, or?
I think the majority of them get harvested, but when you test the alligators, you have a certain amount of time, so many hours that you have to have them refrigerated. And sometimes you might pull up to a line and you might have an alligator that expired already. Okay. And so that
so
you
then
could
it's
probably
good
get,
for the
not go to the seafood industry, but a lot of the alligator farmers, they don't waste anything. They would take that meat and they would grind it up and they would use it to make what they call alligator meal to feed the alligators at their farms.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they don't waste anything at all.
Okay. All right. So a little while ago you were telling me about, I talked to you about how many alligators there are in Louisiana, because there used to be not very many. Tell me what you told me earlier about that.
The Louisiana Park Wildlife and Fisheries, they had a contract with several hunters, and these hunters would have alligator farms.
What years was that, approximately?
I'm thinking it was in the 70s.
Okay.
And these guys that had alligator farms, they were allowed to go and harvest wild alligators, and they would sell the meat and they would sell the hide, but they had to go collect the eggs in the wild. And the Wildlife and Fisheries knew from studies that each nest site had a certain percent of alligators that would make it to adulthood. And I can't remember the exact number. It was like 11% or 14%.
Yeah, some percentage, right.
So what they told the alligator farmers, you have to harvest the eggs, and they would incubate the eggs and get the baby alligators, and they would keep them
Head
a
start.
lot. They would head start them for so many years, and when they would get, I'm not exactly sure, maybe 2 foot, they would release those back into the wild.
Okay.
And then over years of so many alligator farmers releasing alligators back into the wild, the population increased drastically.
Right.
And the alligator program was a huge success in Louisiana, and nowadays it's a multi-million dollar.
Before that, they were almost gone.
Right.
Because it was unregulated.
Right, they were threatened. It was not regulated at all, and anybody could go hunt alligator any time of the year and kill as many alligators as they want, and it would sell the hides.
Probably before the 70s, but probably in the 60s
I think that was
50s.
right. That's when they really depleted the population.
Right. Well, thanks very much. That's interesting.
You're welcome.
Very interesting. Thank you.